I don't really play Mario Maker 2. I never played a versus match, never finished story mode, never tried an English challenge, and have only ever played one course online, which was a gourmet race music level. In spite of this, I booted up Mario Maker 2 this week for the first time in several months, and after ignoring all the notifications I had dating all the way back to last October, I sat down and tackled some Ninji Speedruns for the first time. In spite of my minimal experience, I managed to get a time that was just barely top 20, but how? Someone who doesn't play the game shouldn't be able to get a time that good, right? I mean, I did admittedly have 25 hours in the game when I picked up this challenge, but all of those were from me building a few levels so I could make a now unlisted glitch video for my YouTube channel. So the question still stands, how? Well, let's start at the beginning of our story, my first run. It went about as well as you'd expect. I did bump into a lot of walls and bumpers, but fortunately before starting the challenge I had already seen some people trying out the level, namely Raise Fire, Red Falcon, and Pangaea Panga. Because of this, I had a pretty rough idea of what was going on already. By the time I had reached the end of the course, I had a pretty decent idea of how to control Mario, and we got a time just under 23,000th place with a 51.642. Not bad. Immediately going into my second run, I changed the Ninja settings so I'm not racing against a swarm and give it another shot. I fortunately knew this was an option already because as stated earlier, I've seen streamers do Ninja Speedruns before. This run goes a lot better, decreasing my time all the way down to 47.483, putting me at 1100th place. My next few attempts focus on me finishing runs because I'm still trying to get a good grasp of how to control Mario. Within the next 10 minutes, I'm able to bring my time all the way down to 41.783, placing me at rank 564, my first placement in top 1000. This is where things start to become a grind. While my 41.7 time wasn't perfect and I did bonk once, making it through this course without hitting any walls is not easy. This is the point where I started to heavily reference what other runners were doing, which was a huge key to my success. The only reason I knew how to approach the course so quickly is because I was able to look at what other runners had already done. I don't know the ins and outs of Mario Maker, I'm essentially new to the game, but as indicated by these ninjas, I'm not the only one playing, so I took to the internet to find some references. Fortunately, Red Falcon had posted his 39.916 world record from the night before to both his YouTube and Twitter, and Raise Fire had posted his 5th place 39.9 from later that night to his YouTube as well. Realistically, I should have thought to check out Panga's run too since he had uploaded a video, but for whatever reason, I forgot to look into it. Examining these resources, I learned things like when to turn, how to turn, when I should be boosting, when I shouldn't be, and other stuff like that. I basically closely inspected the runs to see where I could improve. From there, I continued my grind, referencing the videos back when needed, along with practicing the sections I was occasionally struggling with, and about 45 minutes after starting this challenge, I managed to pull off this run. .266. This placed me in top 100 for the first time ever, and I had done it in under an hour. I'll be honest, I was pretty impressed with myself, but I definitely wasn't done. I could do better. This is where the real grind would begin. I did attempt after attempt for the next 30 minutes, doing my best to explain to myself why I made the mistakes that I did and what I could do to fix them. However, I was struggling to improve my time until finally. .39.850. Now, I'm not the type of person to really pop off when I speedrun, but I was ecstatic. This time was better than both of the runs that I was referencing, which to me was insane. I thought I was going to be capable, but I was already more than exceeding my initial expectations, having barely played for more than an hour. In the back of my head, I knew I could keep improving. The concept of getting top 20 or even top 10 was incredibly exciting, so I kept moving forward. At this point, I really didn't have much to go off of. I'm not very integrated into the Mario Maker community. I only really watch some streams and YouTube content on occasion. so I didn't really know where to go to look for runs. Fortunately, my solution was to observe the movement of the ninjas. This was incredibly helpful. While it was harder to learn some specifics, seeing how they moved throughout the course gave me valuable insight into how I should be racing. It also gave me feedback. If I could take a turn and keep up with or even past the ninjas, I knew I was doing something right, whereas if I fell behind, I knew I was doing something wrong. The cool thing about this is since the ninjas are based around your time, no matter how much you improve, it's always a useful reference to compare against. Eventually, after some more grinding, I managed to pull off this run. $39.733. This put me at 19th in the world. Now at this point, my fingers were starting to hurt. While playing, I was gripping the Joy-Cons pretty tightly to try and hold specific angles while maneuvering Mario. Because of this, not long after achieving the 39.7 time, I decided to take a break and get some food. Later that evening, I came back determined to improve my time. I then proceeded to spend the next hour and a half getting frustrated because I was really struggling to improve. I feel like I cannot express how many runs I screwed up to this stupid coin ring at the end because I just barely missed one of them. A lot of these runs were pretty decent going into the final ring too, and it felt like I could probably pull off a time that was like a low 39.5, but I just couldn't get it. By the end of the session, my hands were hurting again and I eventually just rage quit the game. However, it turns out my frustration couldn't keep me away. I went back to the game later again that same night and made another attempt. After nearly an hour of failed attempt after failed attempt, I finally pulled it off. Well, that was kinda disappointing. I improved, but we're still one place lower than we were before. I then spent another hour continuing to make attempts, but eventually gave in and settled on my 39.633 time, which as it turns out was actually 19th place, but the game lied to me when I got it. I didn't know that was something that could happen or what it means, but oh well. For someone who essentially has zero experience in Mario Maker 2, I'd say I did pretty good. And while I don't know how well this time will last throughout the week, I can say at one point, I was a world-class Ninji Speedrunner. Alright, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but oh well. Now maybe you don't believe me, that's fair. It makes sense to be skeptical of how somebody who doesn't play the game could come in and get a top Ninja time in less than a day. Well, as it turns out, I've actually had this video idea for a while, but realistically I didn't think it would ever come to fruition. That wasn't until I saw my opportunity. I would say this week's Ninja Speedrun is kinda gimmicky. When I think of somebody who's good at Mario Maker, I think of somebody who can beat those incredibly complex Kaizo levels that at times take literal days to complete. Those players have a heavy grasp on how to move Mario, what speeds him up, what slows him down, and so on. That's something I don't have. This Ninja Speedrun, however, really helped bridge that gap between one of those players and me. The P-Balloon power-up was new with the 3.0 update of Mario Maker 2, which came out around a month and a half ago. And on top of that, it's essentially an entire state change for Mario, kinda like a capture in Super Mario Odyssey. The way you handle movement with Mario in this form doesn't really seem to compare to how Mario normally moves. So this was my chance. A lack of experience didn't really feel like it would matter much. Another interesting thing about me is I'm already pretty familiar with the concept of speedrunning. At the time of this video's upload, I have world record in both Super Mario Odyssey All Moons and 100%. On top of this, I was world record contender in 80% for a while, and at one point near the game's release, I got number 8 in the world on the RC car challenge. Now I would like to ask you, if you see the similarity between this and this. Now the way you control and handle these two things is pretty different at the end of the day, but they both have these very similar core ideas that I feel like I was able to capitalize on. I was able to make something completely new and foreign to me feel like an old friend, and realistically, I think that played a huge part in me being able to get my time. And there you have it, that's the story. I'd like to give a huge thanks to the content creators mentioned earlier in this video, Razefire, Red Falcon, and Pangea Panga. All of the respective videos for this Ninji speedrun are listed down in the description. If you guys would be interested in more content like this, let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed, feel free to like, subscribe, or whatever. I'll see you guys later.